but we are going to move into our final segment, which is titled aptly, Sup with Star Wars.
What is up with Star Wars?
Well, we could talk about some things. Let's start with this story here, and then I'll tell a story after this of my own. All right, it's taken 25 years, but Star Wars is finally showing the Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan scene we've always wanted to see. This is coming from Screen Rant. Let's see here. Star Wars is finally delivering the relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn that many have wished to see for 25 years, given that Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon Jinn was killed off in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The relationship between him and his Padawan Obi-Wan has been severely underutilized. Many thought this would change in Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2, but the series has not been confirmed as an upcoming Star Wars TV show. Despite that, a canon Star Wars book is offering what fans have longed to see from the Jedi duo. The book in question is titled Star Wars: The Living Force, with Entertainment Weekly releasing an excerpt from the story. The excerpt details Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon traveling on a public cruiser only to encounter a group of pirates wishing to hijack the vehicle for their own gain. While upcoming Star Wars movies will likely not explore Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in any capacity, this excerpt proves that John Jackson Miller's novel will show the duo at their unrivaled peak. So we got a new book here, Star Wars: The Living Force. This sounds really neat. This sounds pretty akin to I think it's called Master and Apprentice. It's by Claudia Gray. That was another Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan book that I recommend. I thought it was pretty good. It's another canon book of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. So this one being a canon novel as well is pretty neat. This is like going to be actual lore, actual expansions on the character. They're not wrong in any sense of the word. I mean, granted, it's probably because of, well, I mean, it's mostly because of how Phantom Menace ended, Qui-Gon Jinn's death.
Right.
We haven't had enough of this relationship, and I do feel like this is one of those sort of common places in Star Wars you can kind of keep expanding on for now. I don't think we've quite grown tired of these two quite yet, and we do want to know more about their relationship. Jose, is this a book you're interested in picking up, Star Wars: The Living Force?
No, for sure. I mean, I don't really have many canon books. I should, probably buy more of them and read more of them. But like you said, this is something that I've been wanting more of. Is more of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan together, and so I'm probably definitely gonna pick this book up and read it because I think it's gonna be a good read, for sure.
For sure, yeah, I agree with you, man. This does sound like something I would want to pick up. I enjoyed the Master and Apprentice book, which gave us more expansion on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. The Claudia Gray novel was really good, so I'm looking forward to this one as well. Although I'm not familiar with the author, that's all right. Hopefully this does give us more expansion, and I'm just always excited to hear that there's a canon book that can really hopefully be a little bit more impactful than some of the others, because this one is, again, you really do have a lot of creative freedom in that time period with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and their multiple adventures, and hopefully they take advantage of that and make something really epic out of this book. I think I'm looking for an epic Jedi, Qui-Gon Obi-Wan book, and I'm hoping that's what this one is. And not to mention, I mean, the fact that this is coming right at the 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace is so fitting. I assumed we should get a book this year, so yeah, go ahead.
Which AMC finally put on the app the showings that they're gonna have for
fantastic.
the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. So I can't wait for that. It's gonna be sick, especially since we get bonus content
Very
of
cool.
the Acolyte.
Yeah, very cool.
At the end of it, so that's gonna be
Agreed.
sick. Yeah.
Agreed. And we'll be making some content on the channel here for Phantom Menace as well, guys. So look forward to that. I'm very excited to do some of that for you guys coming up in May to celebrate the 25th anniversary. Obviously, a film that means a lot to both of our childhoods. So we're going to be talking about that in depth in a couple different videos, hopefully, on this channel. So look forward to that. But yeah, so I'll talk about, what you guys have been kind of waiting on here, which is my weekend experience. I'll finish that out because the rest of my weekend was Star Wars related. So Yeah, we'll kind of chat about it here. So, one of the people that I got to meet that I actually wasn't expecting to meet this weekend, just kind of ran into him for the most part, was Timothy Zahn, who is one of my favorite Star Wars authors. Obviously, he is the creator of Thrawn. And, one of the things that one of the things that I love about Timothy Zahn is even though, his Legends books have been since retconned. Heir to the Empire is no longer canonical, that whole trilogy with Thrawn. He still continued to write Thrawn in canon, and I think that that's very cool between, his Thrawn trilogy in canon, which is Thrawn Alliances, and Thrawn Treason, and then he also has the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy, which is really the origin of Thrawn and learning more about his people and Chiss Ascendancy. I like that Timothy Zahn's always kind of played ball and wasn't too butthurt to not bring that character back into canon in his own way. He also signed my Thrawn Alliances comic. I picked up issue 2 from him, and he went ahead and put his signature on it, so I want to thank him for that. He is a very, very nice guy. I told him it was great to just be able to tell him I was a fan of his work. I'm very, very thrilled about that. And that was very cool. Asked him a couple questions, so I'll be upfront here. Just asked him how he enjoyed Thrawn and Ahsoka, and I'll be honest as he was with me. So he did tell me that he does need to see more of Thrawn and Ahsoka before he can make a clear judgment, and I think that's pretty fair. One of the things that was a disappointment to me, and I've been a big fan of Thrawn and what Filoni's done with him and Ahsoka. I think he's spot on with Thrawn. But I did ask him myself because I was curious, if Filoni sent him any scripts to review, and sadly the answer is no. I know that Filoni was sending scripts for Rebels, and unfortunately for Ahsoka, he did not share that respect this time around. However, I don't think anybody should jump on Filoni. There could be a perfectly good explanation for that. I don't know if they have to pay Zahn to give his input. Maybe Disney didn't want to pay whatever fee he charges. I don't know. Zahn seemed like a pretty straightforward, nice guy to me, but who knows how he is behind the scenes? I don't know. I can tell you my experience with him was fantastic. Also, the other thing that we can keep in mind is maybe Filoni wants to expand his horizons as a character, as a writer, and challenge himself and see, maybe I can get Thrawn on my own. Maybe he wanted to challenge himself in that respect, and there's many different explanations. I don't think anybody should jump on Filoni for that answer or anything, but I do want to thank Timothy Zahn for being upfront and honest with me, and not holding back on that, and being grateful. And I thanked him for his time, and he seemed very grateful that I was a fan of his work, genuinely. And I'm excited to read the Thrawn Alliance's adaptation in comic book form that he's been working on. This is very, very neat. So Thrawn's one of my favorite characters. He's in my top 5, and so in that respect, Zahn was such a fanboy moment for me to be able to meet him and talk with him. So thoroughly enjoyed his time. So thank you to Timothy Zahn. I don't know if you're going to watch our show. I doubt it, but if you do, I do want to let you guys know, if you ever get a chance to say hello to Timothy Zahn, he truly is a very kind person. And I couldn't be geeking out more about the fact that I got to meet him, talk to him, and how gracious and honest he was with me. So another person that I got to meet over the weekend, Star Wars related, is Vanessa Marshall, who's voiced Hera in Star Wars Rebels. So that was very, very cool. I went up to her and said hello. I'm a big fan of her work in Rebels, and the little bit that she did in Bad Batch to voice Hera. And I think for myself, I could tell you that I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead has done a great job continuing the character. So naturally, I wanted to ask Vanessa what she thought of Hera and Mary Elizabeth Winstead's version of that, bringing it to live action. And I was so thrilled to hear that Vanessa Marshall absolutely loves Mary Elizabeth Winstead's version of Hera. She was very happy. And I'll tell you what, you want to talk about somebody who's just not stuck up about their job at all. It's Vanessa Marshall, and just loves and she loves what she does. And she was she couldn't have been more gracious with her time. I mean, I'm being dead serious about that. She sat there and talked to me, and her and I geeked out about Ahsoka for about 10 minutes straight. It was really, really an awesome experience. And she was telling me, like, one of the things she told me that I thought was really cool is Tia Sakar, who voiced Sabine initially, had been told a lot of these details by Dave, and she was the only cast member that knew a lot of where the story would go. And she told me that she was sitting there watching Ahsoka with Taylor Gray and just like punching his arm because she was so excited about the twists and turns and the things that she didn't expect. And she's loving Ahsoka so far. She's very happy with the product, and it was so cool to geek out with Vanessa Marshall. And again, I'm going to say this about everybody who's been gracious to me. And it's like, if you guys seriously get the chance to say hello to Vanessa Marshall, go do it, man. She makes it worthwhile. She is just as much of a fan as we are. And she even gave me a chocolate to keep my energy up for the day because I was running around in chaos. So I want to thank Vanessa Marshall for that. She grabbed a picture with me, which was very gracious. And she is just so freaking kind and just a wonderful human being. And again, she is just as much of a fan of this stuff as we are. I can confirm that. So few other people at this event, and this is the big stuff. So firstly, let me talk about Anthony Daniels, right? So Anthony Daniels, C-3PO, he is, come on, to us, he's a god. I mean, because he's been voicing this character since 1977. So I was so stoked to meet Anthony, and I've seen Anthony not in person on stage, but on video on stage. You and I have reacted to multiple celebrations. We just saw him last at the Attack of the Clones anniversary panel, I believe. And Anthony, every time he comes out on that stage, so outgoing. He is such a showman. He might try to sell you a book, but he is a very, very outgoing and seemingly wonderful individual. So I did go to meet Anthony Daniels, and did not get exactly what I was expecting from him. So I love Anthony. I do. He is C-3PO till the day we die, and I'm appreciative of Anthony. And look, I don't know what to tell you guys. If you meet Anthony in person, he's a very nice guy, but he's a very shy guy. Not what I was expecting at all from him. He's very quiet, but he is a very sweet man. I could tell you that for sure. Right out flat. He is a very sweet guy, and I went over to him, and I shook his hand and introduced myself, and then he graciously and quietly said, "Would you put your hand out flat like this?" And he showed me how to put my hand out, and he placed a C-3PO toy on my hand so he could take a picture with it, which was neat. Didn't try to sell me the toy or anything, which is very cool to take that picture with him. If you guys check out my Instagram, you can see that. And then I think one of the greatest joys of my life was just being able to tell him that he'd brought me joy since childhood, and I was able to thank him for that. And he smiled at me and nodded, and he's just a very shy fellow. He's not the showman that you see on stage at panels. He's not an asshole by any means. He's very sweet. He just is not the showman you'd expect in person, and he's not on all the time, and that's understandable. You know what I mean? So next person I'm going to talk about here is a very big deal. I've grown up watching this person in multiple films, multiple roles. This person's meant a lot to me since Clerks. I'm going to talk about Rosario Dawson, who I want to talk about a little bit because I also met Hayden Christensen, which was Chaos, and I want to talk about why. So a lot of people wanted to meet Hayden Christensen at this event, and a lot of those people, some people stood in line for 8 hours. Luckily, I wasn't one of those people. I stood in a line for 1 hour to try to go meet Hayden Christensen. Well, maybe 2 hours actually, because we got to the line a little earlier than me and James, friend of the show, to go meet him a little earlier than we were anticipating. And Hayden's flight was a little bit late, Now we had the first session to be able to go meet him, so we got kind of first dibs on everything, so that was nice. So I don't want to bitch about this at all. So the reason I'm bringing up the Hayden Christensen line before I talk about my experience with Hayden is because while we were waiting in line, Rosario was gracious enough to come out and wave to everybody that was waiting while we were waiting. And I thought that was so classy, and I hadn't met her yet at that point. So seeing her come out was a huge deal to me. She was very, very, look, I got to meet her. She was very sweet. I don't know what else to tell you guys when you're with Rosario. I know I said like everybody's sweet, but she's not just sweet. She's like, when you're standing next to somebody like Rosario Dawson, you're just in the presence of cool. I don't know what else to tell you. She just has the cool factor. It just emits off her immediately when you see her. It is unbelievable, and there's not a lot of people that can do that. She just has it, and I'm not putting her on any kind of pedestal because we've seen her in multiple roles. Again, this woman's just meant a lot to me since Clerks, you know what I mean? Watching her play Becky in those movies has been fantastic, and just various other roles since, and that I think that she's always not been in the best roles or best movies, but she's always good in them, you know? She's a very, very talented actress. And I personally, I love her as Ahsoka. I'd say that whether I met her or not. You know, I been very upfront, I think, with everybody about my take on her as Ahsoka. She's very much the adult Ahsoka to me. Ashley means a lot to me too. I'd love to meet her someday. But you know, I finally get around to we're coming around. Me and James are waiting in the line. We're coming around finally to meet her. And the first thing you hear when you walk into Rosario's room that they had set up for her is Prince, which I was just like, mad respect. Prince is playing at full blast, which is awesome. And the woman just, I'm telling you, I went to meet her, and she just has so much energy and so much kindness to her. And I went to go shake her hand, and she I felt kind of bad because she had her hand in her right pocket, but she pulled it out just to shake my hand, which was really, really neat. And I told her my name was Dom, and it was nice to meet her, and she was like, "Ooh, I love that name," and then she just like gave me a little hug, which was really, really neat. And we snapped our photo. It was a pretty quick reaction, but she was, very, very happy to be there. And I like that she kept that attitude. And I watched her meet other people, and it was neat to see that, that she just kept that same happy attitude and energy the entire time she was there. I am forever grateful to Rosario Dawson for that experience, and then just being able to thank her or tell her she was amazing in Ahsoka and amazing as Ahsoka was very, very cool. I loved being able to tell her that. She seemed very grateful and humble to that, so that was really neat. Not that I can humble Rosario Dawson of all people, but just the fact that she walks around with the humble, it's very cool. She is very, very nice. And again, I think I might have said this very short, a lot shorter than you'd expect. But she is very, very cool. Just cool. And it the second you stand next to her. Don't know what else to say about her. Cool, beautiful, kind, energetic. Anything you want her to be, she is, and I mean that in the best way possible. You know what I mean? Like, I talked about Lou Ferrigno earlier, and that's, that is what it is. All right, so let's talk about the main event here, right? Everybody's probably curious about Hayden Christensen because, he's Hayden Christensen, right? He is Anakin Skywalker, OG Anakin. And, man, I grew up with this guy. I've gone from every experience with this guy, from seeing him in Jumper, from seeing him in The Wake. I'm not sure how those movies hold up now, but I enjoyed them as a kid. I've talked mad shit about him and Attack of the Clones. I just don't think that performance is very good. I'm going to be very honest with you. Revenge of the Sith, he's certainly grown on me in that movie, and I think that the work he just did in Ahsoka, reprising the roles of Anakin Skywalker, was the best performance he's given as Anakin. if not the best of his career. And I just mad respect to that guy. I also thought he did a great job in the Obi-Wan series. You know, despite my feelings on the series overall, he wasn't the problem with it. You know, he did a great job in that series, acting alongside Ewan. It was great to see those two back together. And regardless of what I may think of, you know, some of his past work, he's still one of the biggest faces of Star Wars to date. He's Hayden Christensen, and you know, I waited an hour to see this dude. You know, so you could tell my determination was pretty high. You know, even though I had already had the session one, and you know, I had, you know, first dibs essentially as far as that goes. You know, I still waited in a line for a long time of a lot of people, and I was very, very excited to meet Hayden. And so I was with James, friend of the show. James wanted me to go meet him first. James was getting a little starstruck. He didn't want, you know. Guys, Hayden, he's the classiest and kindest human in the world. And he has the most beautiful eyes on any human being you'll ever meet. I don't know what to tell you. No shame in saying that. And I walked in the room, and there he was standing there, and I said, "Nice to meet you. My name is Dom." And this man, he stooped down to just like reach my height, because he's about 2 times my size, and this man stooped down to reach my height, looked me directly in the eyes, and he's just like, it was sweetest face in the world. Just, he was like, "Dom?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, it's great to meet you. I'm Hayden." And he was just so super chill, and he was like, "How's your day going?" I was like, "It's great. How about yours?" He was like, he's like, "Oh, it's going absolutely great." And he was just like, "You want to take a picture?" And I said, "Yeah." And then, you know, we got together like 2 bros hanging out in a pub, man. That's how it felt. And just like, we took our picture, and then I got to let him know that my favorite performance he's given as Anakin was in Ahsoka, you know, and he absolutely killed it. And he looked so grateful for me saying that to him. And just, guys, Hayden Christensen, you can say what you want about his performance. In person, he's one of the coolest people and nicest. Forget cool. He is cool, but nicest humans you'll ever meet. And I'm not kidding about that. So that was my experience over this weekend, guys. It was really fun. I am grateful to everybody who I was able to say hello to, and that was, again, I keep saying this, but gracious with their time, because that is the most important thing, is that they gave me their time, you know. And then that was very, very cool. Even though I paid a little money to get in, you know, it's still cool for them to, you know, be gracious with their time and not be absolute jerks. That was the end of that as far as the people I met. And then at the end of the night on Saturday, we got to go to a panel. After meeting Hayden and Rosario, we got to go see them do a panel, which was very, very cool. And they were, honestly, it was just awesome. It was a good experience. I want to shout out the host, even though I don't have his name, and I apologize. The host just did a great job, because he was pumping us up. Man, this guy was playing Thunderstruck and Bohemian Rhapsody. And if you have not heard a room full of maybe 1,000 people sing Bohemian Rhapsody all at once, you have to experience this, because that was pretty neat. And then Rosario and Hayden came out, and they talked about a lot of things, everything from past projects, how they met, which they actually met in a theater class, which I thought was pretty neat, prior to them actually working on the screen together. Hayden had seen Rosario and kids at the time, and that was it, and he was very starstruck by her, and she invited him out to dinner, and that kind of blew his mind, it seemed like, and he loved her ever since. And these two have been great friends ever since, it seems like. They worked in the movie Shattered Glass together, which I just watched, by the way, which Hayden gives an absolutely great performance in, by the way. I do recommend that movie. Shattered Glass they worked on together, which was very cool. I got to hear Rosario Dawson do her impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger as a Wookiee, which was really neat, which brought Hayden and her both to tears, because it was hilarious, and she gave a spot-on Arnold as a Wookiee. You got to hear them just being or Rosario at least, being ever so stoked about season 2 of Ahsoka. It does sound like it is on the way. So I was really happy to hear her talk a little bit about that. They got to talk about working together on Ahsoka and how absolutely amazing it is. And then just even hearing Hayden at the panel, you could tell that this guy is just ever so humble. And he let the audience know what I liked is he's like, even though some of our reactions have been quick tonight, he's like, I just want you guys to know that they are all very meaningful. So that was really neat. I found out that Hayden designed a clothing line back in the day. The jacket he was wearing in our photo, actually, he designed on his own, which was a pretty neat little detail. So he kind of went into that, and the host was very surprised that he had a clothing line. He was like, "You had a clothing line?" And Hayden was like, "Yeah." And the host was like, "Can we find it anymore?" And Hayden said, "No." So it was a failed clothing line, but they also both complimented Ashley Eckstein and her clothing line that she has now, her universe, and they both seem to be fans of that. One of the coolest experiences ever is when the gentleman asked them which character would they want to be outside of their own in Star Wars if they could be, and hearing Rosario without hesitation, Hassaz Ventress, was very cool to hear her say that. She clearly is a fan of this stuff as well. And then, Hayden said, man, if I could, he's like, honestly, it'd be Ahsoka, and that's his favorite outside of his own character. And seems like, and so I don't know if he was just being nice because Rosario was sitting next to him, but it was still very cool to hear the responses to that question. So a lot of information here, so I apologize for this, but yeah, that was my weekend, guys. It was just absolutely couldn't have been better. It was very, very cool.
Way better weekend than mine. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I'll tell you one little funny anecdote, one more thing from the panel, which is, I was saving this till the end, was the one that satisfied me the most. So one of the big things about Star Wars projects is there's a lot of secrecy behind them, and a lot of these actors can't say a whole lot. Even when they get cast, they're not allowed to tell anybody. And one of the coolest stories that I thought Rosario told is, she wanted to tell everybody when she found out she got cast as Ahsoka, but that she took inspiration from the kids in Bryce Dallas Howard's first Mandalorian episode. And she said if those kids can keep that secret that they were going to be in a Star Wars, she was like, I'll be fine. And that's what inspired her to keep that secret. And then, Hayden even talked about back when he was cast as Anakin for the first time, and George wanted him to keep it a secret. He couldn't tell anybody. And he said how his roommates just knew by the dumb smile on his face that he got Star Wars. And he said, I didn't confirm it to him, but I did light up an imaginary lightsaber and then put on Duel of the Fates. And he and I jumped around the couch and played with lightsabers out of excitement. So, and then he said he told his sister and his mom and just everybody else in the world that he was going to be Anakin. So it doesn't sound like he was as good at keeping the secrets. And one of the things that gives me, I don't take a lot of pride in Indiana, by the way. This is the last thing here, and it gives me pride. This gives me a little bit of Indiana pride, being kind of from here and all that. And there's not a lot about Indiana I like, but this gave me a little pride in it and makes me feel pretty cool. So Rosario had told a very good story about a man who came up to her at this event and had told her his daughter doesn't watch a lot of stuff because she just, because she doesn't watch like a lot of the franchises and stuff like that. She can't relate to any of it and all that kind of stuff. She doesn't relate to Star Wars. And then she came in the room when her mother was playing Ahsoka on the TV, and her mom was in like episode 4 or something like that, and so the daughter, it caught her attention for some reason. Ahsoka caught her attention, and this panel was on Saturday, just to set up some context, right? So caught the daughter's attention, and she watched Ahsoka all the way through, and she wanted to go back to the beginning, and I guess like this is like the one piece of content that's like of a franchise that she can actually watch like over and over and over again, because for whatever reason she relates to Ahsoka. So Rosario told that story about the man that came up to her to tell her about his daughter, and he said she's a little young, to be here, but hopefully one day she gets to meet you. And on Sunday, Rosario traveled an hour and a half to this man's little house and on a farm just to meet his daughter. So
Crazy.
I think that just shows
Yeah, that's
the characteristic of somebody like Rosario Dawson and how amazing she
that's
actually is.
amazing.
So
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah, and my little Indiana out here, just the fact that happened was unbelievably cool. So yeah, I just thought that was a cool tidbit I wanted to share with you guys. A little bit of Indiana pride I could take, just the fact that happened is awesome. But honestly, all the credit in the world goes to Rosario Dawson. That story, it got me a little choked up when I heard it, because it was like, oh damn, that's amazing. That's amazing. That she is
That's
that
how I
kind
want
of
to be when
person.
that's how I want to be when I get successful in the film business. That's how I'm trying to
Yeah,
be right there.
yeah, and yeah, I'm glad you said that, because when you meet people like them, it does make you want to be better in general in your life. And just, if I took anything away, it's not that I feel cool because I met them. I mean, trust me, it feels awesome. But if the biggest takeaway is, like, if they could be that awesome at their level of success and their level of fame, it makes you want to be better, even just in your little life.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And they just, it really shows you how to treat people. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that is from everybody that was as gracious as they were this weekend, man. Truly, they know how to treat people, and it makes you want to treat people the same way, and just be that cool and be that kind and be that open and be that gracious with your time to anybody that you can. I mean, I could tell a quick story out of my life. I was at a function I had to be at. It was, and I was pressed for time, and but a gentleman wanted to stop me on the street in a city and talk to me about his charity. And even though I was in a hurry, I did stop to listen to what he had to say. So at the same time, it's like, so the point is, guys, be gracious with your time. It really is. It could make a huge difference in somebody's life. I could tell you that it made a difference in mine, with Rosario and Hayden especially. And as busy as they were not any less gracious or any less kind. They could have been overly stressed and overwhelmed, and I probably would have thought they would have been just as nice had they just said, all right, we got to be quick. All right, thank you. But it wasn't like that. It was, hey, great to meet you. A compliment, and just be gracious with your time is the point, as they were, because they really truly are. Yeah, they're heroes of the industry, in my opinion, in my book. I'll never forget that experience, and they'll always be heroes of this industry. That is crazy to me. All right, guys, we're hitting the hour 36-minute mark, but I hope that those stories were as entertaining for you as they were for me when I got to experience them. But let's talk about Bad Batch. Jose, you and I have seen we've got to catch up here on the last two episodes that we haven't spoken about on the show yet, and we're going to start with the one that's episode 8, which had Fennec Shand in it. So this is
Hmm.
spoilers, guys, if you didn't realize just by me saying Fennec Shand. Um, so I'm going to start with this. Like, first of all, great to see Ming Na Wen come back, reprise the role. But even more so, what I enjoyed is the fact that we had there was a lot kind of going on with Fennec, but like on the side of that, we also had the Crosshair and Omega storyline kind of growing in development, and seeing them just use like such a small section of what is the Force was pretty cool, and seeing how they brought back that Wookiee storyline from episode 2, and since we're in the spoiler talk, I'm gonna light a cigarette too because we're at the end. But yeah, so seeing them kind of use the Force and not really use the Force, but touch into a small part of the Force, I should say, tap into that, was pretty neat for the moments, and I enjoyed their development. And I'm loving this Crosshair Omega relationship. But Jose, what were some of the highlights for you in the 8th episode? We'll get to the 9th one in a minute, but so don't get too eager.
Um, no, yeah, for sure. I think like what you said, the whole Crosshair Omega stuff, just continuing to grow and their relationship just really solidifying more and more as these episodes go on. Um, also, Hunter and Wrecker going to that place with Fennec and kind of working as a team, disarming those mines and
Yeah,
tracking down that praying mantis looking thing.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to hunt it down. I thought those were some pretty cool sequences.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of Fennec and Hunter and Wrecker kind of just bouncing off of each other was really cool.
I agree.
The way that like Hunter was more of the serious, whereas Wrecker again being more of the comedic aspect. I thought was really cool having those two different takes in this episode. And then like the ending of the episode too with Fennec Shen basically just betraying Hunter and Wrecker.
Yeah.
I thought was really cool because that left a lot of suspense. Is like, who was she talking to? You know, who has she sent this message to? We don't know. So I thought that was really cool cliffhanger, and it left me wanting more, and waiting to see what would happen in episode 9.
Yeah, for sure, man. I thought it was a good cliffhanger, and again, each episode has ended with something of a cliffhanger and something that makes you want to
And
continue
again,
the story.
another side mission that is a side mission that has importance. It's not like one of those
Yes.
side missions that we've seen in previous
Yes.
seasons that don't hold any weight. But this one, I think, in my opinion, has held the most weight
Yeah.
out of all the side missions that they've done. This one definitely held the most weight, and I think was my favorite of all the side missions that the Bad Batch have gone on. Even though this one was only Hunter and Wrecker, I think it still held the most weight out of all the side missions that we've seen.
I agree. I think that this story or this season has again just been the best balance of spectacle and story. You
For
know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah,
It's given that
for sure.
off, and I really am enjoying that, and just the again, it's continuing the emotional storyline too, which is just fantastic. And I love, I think I like Fennec even more here than I do maybe in the live action
See,
stuff. You know,
yeah.
I think that
Oh no, for
we're
sure.
getting more development on her as well, and seeing a little bit more of that other side of her that's a little bit more caring, and which you can kind of sense she has in Boba Fett and all that, which is pretty cool. By the way, Ming Na Wen just got cast for that Karate Kid reboot. I forgot to mention that on the show, but I think that's pretty
Oh,
neat.
wow.
I'm excited to see her do that. Anyway, but yeah, I think that Fennec is a very cool character. I'm liking her more and more as we go with her, and seeing her developed in various projects is very cool. I think Nina absolutely kills her voice. She did a great job with the voice work. Is very consistent with the live action work of Fennec. If you ask me. So I thoroughly am enjoying every bit of that, and I enjoyed seeing her here. As you said, we did get a bit of a cliffhanger here, which got continued in the 9th episode, which is, I think, the one we're most looking forward to talking about, because, boy, let me tell you. This 9th episode, The Bad Batch, is the best piece of Star Wars animation I think that's been put out in the world, and I mean that wholeheartedly. It is again a great balance of story and spectacle. We are getting more development for Omega,
Mm-hmm.
but also this has to be the most cinematic thing I've ever seen from Star Wars animation. This is the episode, and again, spoilers, with Saab's Ventures, and man, was it good. It was so fantastic. Jose, I'm going to let you kind of talk about your take on this 9th episode before I get into it.
Yeah. So again, like you said, it had a perfect balance of story and spectacle. Um, it was really cool and interesting to see Asajj Ventress in this new way. New hairstyle, new lightsaber, kind of new way of life and way of thinking. Um, it really, you know, she really resonates with the Bad Batch in the sense that like, and she said it in the episode too, is that like she basically went through the same thing as the Bad Batch did. They were basically all brainwashed by the Empire to serve. They're just puppets in the Empire's plan. So I thought that was really, that line was delivered very well from Asajj Ventress to the Bad Batch.
Yes, yes.
Um, and I really also do like. I feel like the other thing too. You said I agree with you that this is the best piece of cinematic animation that we've seen from Star Wars, but I also think it's up there with one of the darkest too that we've
Yeah,
seen probably in
I agree.
animation from Star Wars
I
as
agree.
well. In terms of also how like in the same way that they that when they first saw Crosshair back, they really were on him the whole time. That they're the same way here with Asajj Ventress, which I mean makes sense because they know what she's done in the past and how she was. At least once they figured out who she was, because they didn't know at first who she was, because I haven't seen her in like so long. Once they found out who she was, they were really on her. I really also liked. I think Crosshair for me was probably my favorite out of everyone of the Bad Batch in
Hmm.
this
I
episode.
agree.
With how he tried to deal with Asajj Ventress. Um, I really did. I actually also really did like Omega and Asajj Ventress together. I thought that stuff played very well as well. Her trying to
I did too.
train Omega and all that stuff, and the ending too, where Asajj basically lies to Omega and says that no, you don't have the Force. When I think we all know that she can tap into it.
I think she can. Yeah.
Asajj is definitely looking out for Omega, and I think has a soft spot for her because she cares about her and doesn't want any other you know good people Force users to be eliminated by the Empire. And she could have easily just taken Omega with her and like trained her to become a Jedi and stuff. But the fact that she let Omega stay with the Bad Batch and be protected by them, I think she sees, how much they've grown together as a family and how protective they are of her.
Yeah.
And has decided to just leave Omega with them. And I think that was really really cool. I really want to see. Obviously, this isn't gonna be the last that we see of Asajj Ventress. I don't think, at least. And I just can't wait
Yeah.
to see more from her because, in my opinion, I think she's next to Omega and Crosshair one of the standouts for this series, and we've only seen her for one episode. So I'm honestly excited to see what else is in store for Asajj Ventress in this season of the Bad Batch. Can't wait to see what else they do with her, dive in more with her, and will she come and help the Bad Batch with Omega, fight the Empire? I think that'll be really cool to see.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, and like the video if you think Jose's voice is suddenly sexier today. But I have to say, no, seriously.
I forgot to explain what happened as well.
um, yeah, he got punched in the throat, everybody. But we have to get into. No, not really. But we have to. Yeah, no, I had to agree with you on all this because, like, and the other thing I would say too is like, yeah, Bad Batch season 3 has just become maybe
Oh my
one of my
goodness.
favorite seasons of Star Wars television ever. I mean, because of, and this episode
Yeah,
just
for
set it
sure.
over the top. And as we're talking about Omega tapping into the Force, I mean, is this a thing of setting up possibly a future player, maybe somebody that ends up in Rey's Jedi Academy down the line? We'll see it
Ooh,
because this does feel like it is connecting a lot of
yeah.
Star Wars back into it,
Hmm.
and a lot of the elements of the storytelling into it. And after watching this episode, my initial reaction was like, all right, Star Wars is back. Like this feels
Yeah,
like we are
for sure.
back, and like it has a plan, and we're seeing like because it truly feels like a case of like as consistent as the season has been, this episode solidified like, oh, the creators really had control on this. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel
Yeah,
like
for
they're
sure.
trying to just churn out episodes for the hell of it anymore. This really does feel like the creatives having control. And I felt the same thing on Ahsoka, and this is like now two projects in a row that I've really enjoyed as much as I have. I know people have mixed opinions on Ahsoka. I don't care. I think that show is a warm hug to all Star Wars fans. So
100%.
and I think it's 100% a product of Filoni's, the same way that this feels like a product of Filoni's and Jennifer Corbett's. And just like again, the creators just having absolute control over it has just been amazing, and just seeing the consistency here. And when we're looking at, I know people they're still going to complain about the Dark Disciple ordeal because Asajj died in that novel, and we still don't have good explanation on that. But I also kind of enjoy the ambiguity of, hey, I have a few lives left. I do have questions, of course, but it was ambiguous in the right way. I think I thought it because it was a well written line. That's the best way I could put it. And if that's all we get, I'm not going to be that pissed off. I think honestly, it's like I do think we'll see more Asajj, and I would even venture a guess to say that they're maybe even setting up a spin-off series with this episode
Which I would
revolving
love.
around Asajj or including Asajj in some type of capacity. So that would be pretty cool as well. Maybe it's a Asajj and Omega series. I don't know where they're going with it, but
Yeah, I
it's
feel like
it's fascinating.
maybe even the first couple episodes could even explain how she's alive.
Yeah.
How she's still alive right now, and I might even venture to guess that it's maybe because the Night Sisters probably brought her back to life somehow. because that's a
Sure,
possibility. They always
sure.
have that dark magic over there. They got
Yeah,
some voodoo over there. Their powers. So that's. I mean, I'd venture to guess that that's probably what happened. But I'd be
sure.
interested to see a spin-off series with Asajj and get answers as to how she is alive.
Yeah, no, and I feel you there too. I definitely want answers, obviously, but a
I
little
think we
bit
all
more
do.
of an explanation. And we'll probably get it even if it's in a book. I'm sure it'll come. But yeah, I'm just like, but again, I the way that she was utilized in the episode was perfect. I mean, regardless
Oh
of
yeah.
how she came back or not, they did a very good job with the character, and
I like how she has a yellow lightsaber too. I thought that was really cool.
it's awesome. Yeah, I mean that was
Yeah.
consistent with the Dark Disciple novel, so they're not inconsistent here. I think that they're keeping consistency there, and I really enjoyed that. That was very very cool, and I like that while Asajj stole the show in her own right, she didn't take away from the main plot that was at hand.
Right. Right.
And again, there's just like this episode ended, and I said pretty audibly, I was like, "Holy shit." It was just so good. I mean, it was just so amazing, and just everything I want from Star Wars animation. I can't get over how well this was done. It is just, again, if you guys haven't seen it, it's really hard to explain without somebody having seen it. If you'd seen it, you know what I'm talking about, because it is just everything you would want from Star Wars in general. I mean, forget animation. It's great Star Wars. I mean, it felt like true Star Wars in the greatest way. And just again, I am interested to see where Omega goes, and I'm surprised that I enjoyed this plot so much, because the last thing I did want was another Force user. Which, granted, she didn't leave off as a Force user, you know what I mean? That's why I said maybe somebody they're lining up to be in Rey's Academy later on down the line, right? So that's a huge
Mhm.
possibility, obviously. Something that we can hopefully look forward to, and it would just show that Star Wars really does have a plan moving forward, and I felt that after
Mhm.
this episode, that there's some kind of plan in place. You know what I mean? I don't think everything is going to be wrapped up by the end of the season. I do think that they're looking for smaller ways to spin things off, and veer off
Right.
into other projects and seep into other projects and interact with other projects, right? That's how I felt about this episode. I'm like, okay, we're really just expanding the ever so growing lore that is the Star Wars
Right.
canon. And so I just, yeah, man, every bit of this was just, it was breathtaking to look at, in a big way, and emotional, and it's storytelling, and just makes me, man, Michelle Ang's voice work as Omega, man, I mean, hats off. She's so good as that character, and
Mhm.
man, I love seeing the maturity of Wrecker. I said this about last week's show, but seeing the maturity of Wrecker throughout the season has been pretty great too. And he's kind of growing as a person too. And then his care for Omega is awesome. And as you said, the way that Crosshair was utilized here was great. I mean, we're seeing a little bit
Mhm.
more of his care for Omega, and I thought
Right.
that that was the most important element of this, was seeing the batch come together just to protect Omega. You know what I mean? And really,
Mhm.
and it was actually quite powerful the way that they stood against Ventress. You know what I mean? Even though
Right.
she clearly had the upper hand in this whole thing, it was still great to see them try.
Right.
They took inspiration from Rick the Doorman and Jedi Survivor, so that was great. Goddamn hero, that guy. But yeah, anyway. But it was still pretty great to see this play out, and yeah, and I just can't believe, again, the voice acting, it really blew me
Mhm.
away just as much as the spectacle and storytelling of this. The voice acting of it was just, it was some of the best we've had.
For sure.
This is just Star Wars animation firing on all cylinders, and what it can ultimately be, and it gave me the right feeling that I think I needed from Star Wars, and have maybe been craving from Star Wars for a little while. I got in this episode, so man, I couldn't say anything even better about it. So it just, I'm gonna leave it there, because it really is truly just phenomenal. I mean, if you guys
Mhm.
are not caught up on the Bad Batch yet, No, please do that. I mean, I'm serious, guys. This is some of the best Star Wars we've had. It's consistent. It's peak. All that being said, I want to shout out Brittany Jackson, who I met at the event this weekend. She is an artist that does a lot of great Star Wars art. You can find her on Instagram at Brittany and Art. She didn't ask me to do this, by the way. I'm just shouting her out because her and I just geeked out about Bad Batch for about 20 minutes straight. She's really loving the new season just as much as we are, and I did purchase a piece of art off of her. It was a Hunter and Omega that I very much admire. I'm very glad to own that from her. She's a great artist, so I recommend checking out her art. Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there really quick before we wrapped up here today. But most importantly, let us know what you think of the Bad Batch so far. Was this 9th episode the best one or what?